Hello, everybody on the stream. Welcome to UnCEALed. This is season 5, and this is the second episode of UnCEALed. We are in the middle of week 3 right now, and really good opportunity here to go down the list of all of the divisions, all of the teams in each division, and really show how the divisions are starting to shape up and take form. We only have 2 undefeated teams in the entire league right now, 3 weeks in, which is pretty exciting. It means that it's really difficult for a lot of teams to really separate themselves from the rest of the pack. So, really good job there for all of the teams duking it out, fighting for supremacy. So, we're going to start off today. By the way, I should probably introduce myself. Hi, I'm Scattercat. I casted a match last night, and you're hearing me again, so I'm sorry that it's 2 days in a row. But with me, helping me out here, going through the divisions, is Sengisia. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking.
All right. Brief little disclosure here before we get started. I do play for one of the Imagine teams, but I'm trying not to be very biased about that because Sengisia will be covering every one of the divisions that Imagine plays in, other than one of them. So I won't be talking too much about my own organization. So we're going to start off with Noxus because that's the division I play in. It's the one I am most familiar with, and I am most comfortable starting with that one. So looking at the Noxus division, it's shaping up with Goon Squad and Team Harmony being tied for first place. With Team Harmony Judan. They have a few teams in the league. And then after that, we have Imagine Ocean and Chicken Riders tied at 2-2 for second place here. Guardian Gaming is 2-0, but they had a bye week already, so that's why you don't see 4 games in their record. Team 27 and Dandelion Knights are taking up the bottom of the division, both of them not having a single win. Again, Team 27 also had a bye week by now, which is why they only have 2 games under their belts as well. A few things that I'm going to be pointing out here. Imagine Ocean and Goon Squad have a little bit of a rivalry going on because Goon Squad's AD carry, Goonball, did play for Imagine last season. So that'll be really fun when it gets to their match later on in this season. Team Harmony having a few teams across the league. It's good to see them here in second place. It means that the organization is doing a good job of supporting this team and helping them out. I'm sure they're getting some scrims between some of the teams because that's what Imagine is also doing, having the teams in the organization actually scrim each other to help each other out. So I'm going to point out a few things as we move on here in this division. First of all, taking a look at Goon Squad and Team Harmony, both tied for first place. If we take a look at Goon Squad first, we see that the players on this team are pretty well known. Ziggy has been in the league for a while. He's a fairly common face that we'll see around here. Goonball also, since he was already here for 1 season, also getting decently well known. But the other 3 players are brand new to the league. So this is a league of mostly new. This is a team of mostly new faces to the league, and we're seeing that it's not hurting them all that much because there isn't a KDA that is lower than a 2. The lowest KDA on the team belongs to Double Shank with a 2.16. If we also look at the kill participation scores, though, there is a little bit something to be said there if we look at that, because their jungler, Double Shank, also has the lowest kill participation score on the entire team at 41.4%. Now, what this would suggest is that they don't play through jungle ganks in the laning phase. It would suggest, just looking at the numbers, that he's not all that indicative of early game success for this team, and he's also not all that indicative of late game success for the team either. That 41.4% kill participation score for a jungler, I feel, is kind of on the low end. So Double Shank is a player that you should be looking to see improve as the season goes on. I'm predicting that he's going to end up getting that kill participation score higher as the season goes on, as he gets more used to playing in this league and being a jungler on an organized team playing against other organized teams. We see that the MVP score is in favor of For Sparta, the team captain. He has the highest MVP score on the team so far. So let's move on then. I'm going to talk about Team Harmony Judah next, the other team that is tied for first place. And on their team here, we are also seeing some interesting numbers. KDA wise, again, nobody's below a 2. With Bryze or Breeze, however you pronounce that, their AD carry having a 2.08 as their lowest KDA score on the team. The kill participation scores are also kind of interesting, with the lowest kill participation score actually being their mid laner, Kudaku, who, being a mid laner, I would expect that kill participation score to be a bit higher. So looking for him to improve on that, being a little bit more involved in team fights or being a little bit more involved in early game skirmishes as the season progresses, especially if we see the playstyle of a roaming mid laner and during laning phase becoming more popular or not as the season progresses. Depending on how that style changes throughout the season, that number could go higher or even lower. So we'll wait and see how that actually pans out. The other thing about this team is that it seems that Zacharias and Kudaku get the MVP scores. So even though Kudaku doesn't exactly have the best or the highest kill participation score on the team, he is still doing things for the team that they say is worthy of giving him that MVP score. So there is something special about Kudaku. There are intangibles that might come into play. Maybe he's a really great leader. Maybe he's the shot caller. We don't know for sure. But this team looks, if they're 3-1 though, sitting at these kill participation scores, if they're 3-1 and rivaling Goon Squad for the top spot in the division, they're doing something right. So we'll see if they continue to be a major threat moving on throughout the season. Something that I want to point out about one of the lower teams here, Chicken Riders. Even though they're sitting at 2-2, they're tied with Imagination and Guardian Gaming. I just want to point out the KDA of their mid lane player. Merzrod has a 9.75 KDA, and I think that's the highest KDA score out of any player in this entire division. So that is very well done on him. It kind of indicates that this team likes to play through their mid laner, that their mid laner is the powerhouse of their team. He can carry this team. He's ready to fit everyone into that gigantic backpack and carry them up the mountain to victory, right? So good job on Merzrod for really being that solid rock and foundation for your team. In fact, the only other player that, Chaotix, the AD carry, is tied with you in kill participation score, so there's also that. But Madero, the support, having the highest kill participation score on this team. Very good for a support to have a high kill participation score. It means that they're doing a lot of work to help the team set up plays or set up team fights to help them be successful. Now they are sitting at 2-2, so they are not they're not tied for first with the other two teams that we already talked about, but there is a lot of hope for this team leading into the rest of the season, knowing that their mid laner is such a good player for this team, and also that their support is very good at setting up the rest of the team for success with his high kill participation score. So I'm not going to highlight my own team because that seems a little bit biased. But I will just say that my team is also tied with Chicken Riders. So I'm also looking forward to my team playing theirs. Team 27, Dandelion Knights, picking up the rear here. Both of them have some positives. For one thing, Dandelion Knights have a lot of experience in the division. Sorry, not the division, in the league itself. They have some players that have been here for a while. So I don't think they're going to sit in last place for long. I think they're going to find some wins pretty quickly, especially considering that their AD carry has an 83.6% kill participation score for their team. If the rest of the team can figure out a way to really facilitate their AD carry, Lord Boomerius, more than they already have, I'm sure they're going to start picking up some wins. I can see this team picking up a lot of wins in the future. And then Team 27, of course, also picking up the rear here in the division. I really hope they pull through. They have some friendly faces as well that we've seen throughout the league before, with Tidsy, Rio the Wildfire, Saxman Rios, Icy Warrior, Tribox, and Reaper. I believe is new, but the rest of them, being relatively common faces that we see throughout the league in previous seasons, I don't think they're going to stay winless either. I think by the end of this season, every single team in the division is going to have a good number of wins, and it's going to be a good race for the playoffs. But, that's enough of Noxus division. I'm going to hand things over to Sengisia and let him tell you all about how another division is shaping up.
All right, so we're going to take a little bit of a 180. We're going to go all the way to the top here and talk about the Ionia division. Topping off the Ionia division, actually, on top of that, we actually have two of the Imagine teams are in this division from Scattercats, little group there. Topping it off, though, we have Imagine Mountain, one of the two teams that are currently going on a 4-0 win streak right now. Right below them, we have the second Imagine team, Imagine Infernal, going a nice 3-1. Then we've got Silverbacks and Players Reborn going at a 2-win, 2-loss. Mouthfield going at a 1-3, and Team Harmony has had unfortunate luck and is going 0-4 at the moment. So now, if we take a look at that top team, Imagine Mountain, they have, I don't know quite a few of these players, but I have played against players like Monkey last season. I've played against Scrims against Monkey this season as well, and along with Stebby, and they're phenomenal players. They're really good at keeping with their team, making sure that they're where they need to be. And so I can definitely see where this team is getting its wins from. We've got phenomenal KDAs almost across the board on Imagine Mountain, with an insane 14 KDA coming out on their AD carry. KP is sitting comfortably above 50% on every single one of their players here. Like, these guys, I can see how they're going 4-0. I can see that they're going to do their best to continue it. They are against their sister team in the division coming this week, who are also very strong and very promising. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Move over to Imagine Infernal now. We have Taco in the top lane there. Do not know why Noctron has not played yet, but Uncaged Reaper seems to have been filling his slot. They've got, pretty decent KDAs. I got a 4.18 come from the support. Their ADC is like a 3.5. They're insane farm coming out here. They've got good gold per minutes. Again, very strong team, a very good contender to Imagine Mountain. I'm excited to actually watch that game and see how that goes, especially from these top teams. It's always fun to watch these Diamond and Plat players duke it out. Moving down, if we go to the Silverbacks team, they have a more balanced team. There's not any individual player that, when looking at this alone, that just absolutely stands out, like this is the dedicated carry for their team, or this is, who they're relying on. They all seem to be very solid and play as, a cohesive team. They help each other from the looks of it. They've got really a decent amount of assists across the board, some of them even rivaling what the support has. And so it seems like they all definitely play for each other, for the team. And so these guys, I definitely think, have a pretty good chance at breaking that 2-2 and actually moving up the ladders here. Players Reborn is the other team that was going 2-2 at the moment. And their jungler himself, Caged Reaper, is just insane. He is constantly around the map with like a 72% KP. He's from looking at the stats, it's like he's in every lane at any point in time where he needs to be. So playing around him would probably be a very good, or he plays around his team, but playing around to the jungle with such a high KP is probably their big powerhouse for the team. Their AD carry, Squirrel Sensei, also doing very well. Got a 6.62 KDA coming into these 2-2 matchups. So he's a pretty strong contender for this as well. Another solid team looking to do whatever they can against the Imagines that are topping their standings right now. Coming down, we go into Mouthfield. These guys are going 1-3 at the moment. They have pretty average KD. They're kind of similar to the Silverbacks. They don't have one very standout player, but it feels just from looking at it that they all play for the team. They all try to help each other out because they have high assists across the board, uh, and high kills. The KDAs are pretty decent, and the KP is sitting aside from Mayor of Huevos above 60% for just about all their players. The last team we're going to talk about is going to be Team Harmony. They've struggled a little bit in the first 2 weeks coming into this, but it looks like their mid laner, SpongeBob is Life, has a pretty high KP, a really high CS per minute. He's making some gold. He struggled. Their team has struggled a little bit, but just like looking at him, I think if they play around him a little bit more, or just maybe they have some communication issues, but overall, I think they can come back from this 0-4 fairly easily. They're against the Silverbacks this coming week. I think that they have the potential to give them a run for their money. And so now we're going to go back to Scattercat to learn about the next division that we're going to be talking about.
All right. Thank you. An addendum to everything that you just talked about for everybody watching the stream. The two imagined teams in Ionia will actually be playing each other on Saturday. So who knows? Maybe Infernal will take a game off of Mountain, or maybe they'll take the whole series away from Mountain, and we won't have Mountain being undefeated anymore. Should be pretty interesting to find out how that actually ends up. So yeah, I'll be talking about the Demacia division next, because they may be the lowest division in the league, but that doesn't mean that they're not exciting or interesting. In fact, there are some really cool things that I want to point out about some of these players. So we're going to start off just by looking at the scores here. Storm Riders and Zenigma Shadowfire are both undefeated, sitting at 2-0, but they have had bye weeks. So kind of interesting how that's going to pan out for the two of them now that they don't have any more bye weeks coming up for the rest of the season. Did the bye weeks help them? Did the bye weeks hurt them? Not sure. We'll find out. But Storm Riders have a very special thing going for them. Their jungler is sitting at a 13 KDA, has only died 3 times so far the entire season. 19 kills, 20 assists, very, very good stuff we're seeing. And his name is Alpha Pig, and he's definitely living up to the alpha part of his name here. Aside from that 13 KDA, his kill participation is also at 75%. That tells me that this team really plays through their jungler, and their jungler is the main way that they set up for plays and skirmishes, maybe get some picks off on players on the other team here. Alpha Pig seems to be the key to this team's success. You don't have a kill participation score that high or a KDA that high unless you are literally the reason for the team's success, the rock that everybody rallies around and builds the rest of the team up from. So if I was anyone on the teams that play against Storm Riders, my goal every single game would be to focus on Alpha Pig and make sure that Alpha Pig doesn't succeed. Because if Alpha Pig succeeds, the whole team is going to succeed as well. And he has one MVP vote already for himself, which is well deserved, seeing as he plays this insanely well for this team. The other team that doesn't have a loss, Zenigma Shadowfire, they also have some really good stuff to point out on their team as well. Their mid laner, Vidra, also has a 13 KDA, 5, 1, and 8 being his total score line here. But their top laner, Goreclaw, and their support player only plays trees. They also have very high KDA scores. Goreclaw has a 10 and only plays trees has a 10.5. So they have 3 different members on this team that are really doing a lot to help this team succeed. Granted, the kill participation score for their top laner Goreclaw is only a 43.5%, but this high KDA tells me that he does a lot in that solo lane matchup with the opposing top laner, that he's able to find his advantages up there, that he's able to win one-on-one against the other top laners that he plays against. So we'll see if that success continues for Goreclaw as the season progresses, or if maybe other teams see this KDA and they realize, oh, no, we got to stop that. we'll put a few jungle ganks up there. We'll take care of him. But their support player having a 70% kill participation score, along with that 10.5 KDA, means that he not only knows how to set the team up for plays and get the team started on some team fights or some picks, but he also does a really good job of staying alive after doing that initial engage, which is kind of difficult for a lot of supports to do. Typically, the support mentality, right, is, I'll give my life for the team if it means that we win these fights, right? But he's finding out that he kind of doesn't have to always give his life up for the rest of the team and they'll still succeed. So good on him for being able to actually do that. Now, they do have 3 more games coming up, so we'll see if these players are able to continue this trend for themselves, but they should be really exciting to watch in the coming matchups, if any of them get streamed in the coming days here. Really exciting stuff out of those 2 teams. Another team I do want to point out here, though, is Team Defiant. They're the only team in the division without a win. However, I do want to say that they have had a few roster issues. Their starting AD carry at the beginning of the season decided that he wasn't going to actually play the season after all. So they had to find a new AD carry, which they did find. But the team still has not had a single game with a full roster. They have had a substitute in every single game they've played so far. So that, I got to feel bad for Team Defiant on that front, because it is kind of hard to get consistency going for yourself if you don't have a full 5-man roster playing these matchups in the league. However, Team Defiant does have some good players on that roster. Big shout out to their top laner, Aileron, because he may be a Bronze 2 rank. He may have been Bronze 1 in previous seasons as well, but I have personally seen him sub in as a top laner on teams that I've played on in the past, where he has gone toe-to-toe with silver and even gold players and has matched up against them really well. So Aileron Roll does have skill up there in the top lane. I do know that they do have a pretty good player in Masumi here, who for their team has a 60.6% kill participation score, the highest kill participation score on the team. So they do have good players on this roster that they can rally behind, that they can do good things with. The problem, again, is just getting that consistency going, right? So I think there are some bright spots for Team Defiant that they can look at leading into the next few weeks. I would also like to point out that for Demacia, it's not uncommon for some divisions to have picks that are very popular among every single team. And for Demacia, that pick that is super popular is Ashe in the AD carry position. It's hard to find a game in the Demacia division where Ashe is not played. Ashe seems to be picked up in almost every single one of these games, other than 2 of them, where for some reason she wasn't picked that time. Otherwise, very, very popular. I'm not exactly sure why. Perhaps it's just the CC that she offers, and these teams like to go for heavy CC comps, because that's not uncommon for silver or bronze or even gold ranked teams to focus on bringing a lot of CC to their team fights. But that's just an interesting thing to point out here. I did forget to bring this up for Noxus last time, so I'll bring it up now. The thing for Noxus seems to be Ornn. Ornn seems to be the most popular pick in Noxus division, where so many top laners are picking Ornn that it's hard to find a game where Ornn is not playing. It has happened a few times, but it's pretty rare to not see Ornn in any of these games. But yeah, so that is how Demacia is shaping up here. Looking forward to seeing how this division pans out for the next few weeks. Storm Riders and Enigma Shadowflare being 2 teams to really look at, really watch, see if they can continue their success or see if these other teams can catch up. But I will hand the reins over back to Sengisia, who will talk about another division for all of you.
All right, so we're just going to move right on down and talk about the Shuriman division here. They're the ones right below Ionia, so they're really up there still. You got some plats and high golds in there, so they're very exciting games to watch. So we're going to go to the first place team. We have Africa Donkeys, which is the other 4-0 team that we have here today. Going below them, we have Anarchy Blue going a nice 3-1 at the moment. Team Harmony Godin is going even. They're going a 2-2 with Cloud 10 going 1-3. Now with Team 37 and Hydrodynamic Boing Boings, they're both 0-2. They were supposed to play against each other, and I do not know how those games have went, and they have not been recorded yet. So as of right now, they're just the 0-2. There are no buys in this division. All right, so we're gonna go to the first team, Africa Donkeys. So it looks to me like a lot of this team is played around the bot side of the map. Both the top and jungler just have a solid 50% KP, but mid and the bot lane are sitting up at like that 60-65% range over there. Like this is where they take most of their fights. They're focusing on the bot half of the map from the looks of it when I'm looking at just the stats. Fantastic KDAs across the board. You know, most of them sitting at like a 4.0 or higher. We got Blue Sox at a 2.5, but you know he's probably going around doing a lot of ganks, playing aggressive. Like this team has some of the most like kills and assists that I've seen comparatively. So it feels like they are a very early aggressive team. They like to take the fights. There should be a very interesting team to watch. Oh. Oh man, sorry, I got something stuck in my throat. There we go. A very interesting team to watch, so I recommend whenever they play Team 37 coming to the next week. You know, if that game is cast, it'd be a fantastic game to go watch. You know, it's very, very fun to watch these guys play. Next, we're going to move down to Anarchy Blue. They're the 3-1 team, and they seem about as aggressive as that Africa Donkeys. They also have good KDAs sitting at like a 6 and a 7, also playing on that bot side of the map. You've got you know, that 50 KDA from the top in jungle, a little bit more from Zan Starfire compared to Africa Donkeys, but again, like that mid laner, I can't pronounce his name and I don't want to butcher it, so I apologize, is like a 73% KDA. The 80 carry has like a 64%, the support being a 70%, so they like to take these fights on the bottom side of the map here. I've got good CS coming in from them as well, with like a 7 CS per minute coming in from the mid laner, and 6.65 coming in from the AD here. We got, you know, MVP scores obviously going to the mid and the ADC, which are fantastic. Moving to the next team, we got Team Harmony Godan, and I probably butchered that one too. But again, it seems like this division, they're putting top lane on this sort of an island. They have generally less KP into the games, with Ben and 12 having a 38.3% KP. So it feels like most of the games that are going on in the Shuriman division are happening near Dragon, near that bot side of the map. That's where most of the fighting and action is going on. This team having another thing where the bench player Budwolf has played the games for the team instead of Guga Food Gragas. I'm unsure of the reasoning, but he seems to be their jungler. Moving down to Cloud 10, we start seeing a little bit of a drop-off in KDA, but like CS is still very high. But this team does not actually play around the bot side of the map. It seems like the top laner and mid laner are sitting at that 60% KP. They either synergize really well together. The top comes mid, the mid comes top. That's what it feels like that they do. The mid and top seem to like to not just sit in their lanes, like to go to other places around the map, which is a fantastic way to put pressure in the game. Their jungler kind of sitting a little bit on the lower side. I feel like if they can coordinate these roams that they're doing at the mid and top with the jungler, that can really increase their play and give them a huge advantage going into these leagues. Moving now to Team 37. These next two teams are technically the lowest in the standing, but their their third and fourth games are not updated, so we're only seeing the games that they played against one team in particular. So if you look at Team 37, they had a rough game going into Team Harmony Godin. Obviously, the mid had a little bit of struggle, but keeping up with that CS. Now, despite what happened to a mid lane, that 7 CS a minute on top of what had happened is phenomenal. Like if you're losing a lane and you're still able to get the CS, that's a really good sign that you're able to come back. You're able to still have gold and make an impact in the game. But this team, if they want something really good, they need to play around that jungler. He has that 70% KP. Take his calls. He looks like he's the one that knows the macro the best. He's moving around the map, constantly trying to find stuff. So I definitely think he's the one to look out for Team 37. And then we're going to go to Hydrodynamic Boing Boings. Again, same thing. They've only had one set of games against. They played against Anarchy Blue. Their game not nearly as rough as Team 37's. This one looks like it probably was fairly even early on for when they played. They had KDA sitting at about 1.2 to about a 2.0, so not terrible. They're at least taking someone with them when they go down. CS coming in is a little lower than Team 37's, but they still have that CS going into the game, still able to farm despite what's happening. They have decent KPs coming across the board here. They're participating in fights and helping each other out. And Nickemite, the mid laner, has a phenomenal 80% KP from that first game. It seems to me like he was constantly in those fights, constantly helping out the team and trying to get the team to do what they needed to do. Even if they didn't result in kills for him, they're at least resulting in kills for his team. And I have played against the bot half of the map in previous seasons and scrims and stuff like that. And Nickemite, ZZ Dog, Baby, they're phenomenal players, and I'm excited to see how they do in their next few games because I'm sure they're able to come back from that first set of 2 losses from Anarchy Blue. And that's what I have about the Shurima division. I'm going to send it back to Scattercat to talk to you guys about the Piltover division.
Yeah, thank you. So Piltover division, again, no team that is undefeated in the season so far. Everybody has at least one loss to their name. At the top here, we have Redacted, which is one of my favorite team names in the whole league. To me, it gives this feeling of, secret government conspiracy kind of thing. I kind of wish that their team logo was a text document that had a bunch of blacked out text on it. I think that'd be a cool team logo for them. But anyway, one thing that I would like to point out about not just Redacted, but every single team that has a win, from Reformed Oath Kings. They used to be the Blood Oath Kings. The Reformed Oath Kings, all the way up to Redacted, the top 5 teams in this division, they don't have a single player that has below a 50% kill participation score. It's all above 50%, which tells you kind of how successful that is. And obviously, the higher everyone's kill participation score, the better it is for your team as well. Whereas the reason why the bottom 2 teams don't have a win is likely because they have players on that roster that have a kill participation score that is below 50%. That's the biggest thing that I can point out for these 2 bottom teams to improve on. Get those kill participation scores higher. Play more fights as an entire team. Play more fights together as a cohesive unit, and you'll find more success. Unless, of course, you're building a split push comp or a pick comp that is meant to just catch people on their rotations in the early game or something, then okay, fine. But in general, try to get those scores up, and it'll help you guys out a lot. So, talking about Redacted again. This team has not one. They have basically everybody on the team, while not being a standout player, seems to be an excellent player in their position. And the reason I say that is because all of them have a KDA score of 4 or higher. So aside from working really well together as a team and all having a good kill participation score, they are also individually good in each of their positions. It's kind of like looking at I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's sort of like looking at Cloud9 from Spring Split last season. They all just do really well in their own individual positions, but then they also play really well together as a team. Again, that's kind of an exaggeration to compare them to Cloud9, but I wanted to find an LCS example to kind of bring in here for this one. But yeah, they're all doing really well right now. The question now for them is whether they are able to continue that success or not, especially considering their next matchup is against Apes Together Strong, which I will talk about next. Apes Together Strong was the winner of the Noxus division last season, and now they have moved up to playing in Piltover this season. And they also have a little bit of a roster move. Cyanite used to be the mid laner for this team, but he's now playing AD carry for this team. But I don't think the roster move has actually hurt them at all, because Cyanite does have a good kill participation score. He's got a good KDA. It's the roster move hasn't really hurt them in that regard at all. And of course, they have Randomonium as the brains of the operation. If you ever get a chance to ask Randomonium about his spreadsheets and his spreadsheets on top of spreadsheets, he has a lot of data that he goes through to determine the team's comps, picks, bans, whatever their plan is going into each week. So Apes Together Strong might be able to go 2-0 against the top team in this division with Redacted here. They might be able to overtake them for first place, depending on how that matchup goes this week. Next team I'm going to be talking about here, we got Inkjet 420. So they have I was mistaken. They actually do have one player on the team that is below a 50% kill participation score, but he is the only player in the top 5 teams that does have a kill participation score below 50%. But everybody else on the team is close to 60 or higher. So still shows a lot of really good coordination between members of this team. They also have a really fun logo. It's an inkjet printer that is smoking and on fire. It's pretty funny. I like that. But the team itself here, two really huge standout players for this team is their bot lane duo, Sheepshead and Dat Puff. Sheepshead has a 6.3 KDA. Dat Puff has a 7 KDA. Really standout players for this team. Pretty clear to see that they should be playing through their bot lane if they're not already doing that, because of that massive KDA score that they both have down there. Also doing really good here is their support. Dat Puff has an 89.8 vision score. Really nice numbers. Keep those numbers up. But yeah, they're looking really strong, really good. There's a reason why they're tied for first place right now. Granted, that can change in the coming weeks. But right now, tied for first place with Redacted seems pretty rightfully so if you're looking at the stats there of that bot lane. So moving on, we're going to Raven Esports. I like Raven Esports purely because of the name and the logo. I'm a big Edgar Allan Poe fan, so I like the Raven reference. I also used to live in Wisconsin, which is home to Raven, who made a bunch of great video games and is still working for Activision making Call of Duty games. So yeah, really into Raven Esports just for the name alone. But looking at their stats here, we see that things are a little bit more interesting for Raven than they are for the teams above them on the standings. They don't have a single player that has a KDA of 4 or higher. All of their KDAs are generally lower, with the highest KDA on the team being a 3.12 for their jungler, Hollow the Wise. But because they are sitting where they are in the standings at a 2-2 record, odds are they still play really well as a team, and they do a lot of fighting together in team fights, and that's why they are sitting at 2-2 and not 0-4 with those low KDA numbers, because all of their kill participation scores are higher than 50%, so they do seem to be able to work together pretty well as a team. So let's watch out for them. They could start rising in the ranks if they can just get their individual play, those KDA numbers higher. We'll be seeing them do a lot better in the coming weeks. Already talked about Apes Together Strong. They are also looking pretty strong, could also overtake first place depending on how their matchup with Redacted goes. Reformed Oath Kings. They have kind of the same situation that Raven has here. All of their KDAs are below a 4, but their kill participation scores are all above 50%. So they're all doing a really good job, again, of coordinating with each other, which is why they're sitting where they are at a 2-2 record. Again, just like Raven, got to get those KDA numbers a little higher, stop dying so much, and start just outplaying your opponents here, and you'll be doing a lot better, guys. But they can do it. They have experience in the league before. Every single member of this team has played in the league in previous seasons, so they do have experience that they can use to really help themselves get better here as the weeks go on. Uh, and then talking about the bottom two teams here, the main issue with the bottom two teams is those KDA numbers, especially on Ghost Actual here. They have 3 players who have a KDA score below 1. So they're dying a lot more than they are getting kills or assists. And they also have some kill participation scores that are also not looking too great. But the good thing about these numbers, and I know I'm going to get a little flack for saying that those numbers are good for something. Here's what they're good for. You learn more when you mess up. You learn more from your mistakes. If they can just do some VOD reviews, look at the mistakes that they have made, and figure out how to rectify those mistakes for the upcoming weeks, then they can climb back up in the standings. They don't have to be sitting here at 0-2 for the rest of the season. They have 6 more games ahead of them, or I'm sorry, they have 5 more games ahead of them before playoffs. They can turn this around. They can be sitting here with a winning record going into playoffs if as long as they learn from their mistakes that they've been making. And the same advice is going to be given to Stars United Esports Club, who is finding similar woes here. Granted, their KDA numbers don't look nearly as bad as Ghost Actuals. Their KDA numbers are all at least above a 1. So they have a little bit less to shore up there, but they do need to keep working on actually succeeding in these fights. Losing to Reformed Oath Kings already, and they still have 5 more matches ahead of them. You guys can do it too. You guys can learn from your mistakes, watch your VOD reviews, and really improve your own play. Just keep working at it, guys, because you have experience on this team. Every single member of this team, again, has played in the league before. They can absolutely pull this back and make a run for it if they try, if they work, if they practice. I think they can do it. Anyway, that's enough for me here with Piltover. And I'm going to hand it back over to Sengisia to talk about the final division of tonight's rundown.
All right, so the final division that we have is the Freljord division. This is the one that I am a part of, so I know the most about this division. So I saved it a little bit for last, so I could get into the swing. So in first place, for the top of the standings right now, we have Next Esports going 3-1. Then we have Team Harmony, who went 2-2 so far, along with Imagine Cloud and Pandemic Poppies. Elf Army Gaming has had their bye, but they had a 2-0 going into their first game. Kamikaze Penguins has also had their bye, but their game was going 1-1. And then Zero Logic Gaming sitting down there at the bottom of the standings at 0-4. So we'll start at the top with Next Esports. This is the team I'm a part of, so I won't talk about it too much. They play mostly on the we play mostly on the bottom side of the map. That's where we have most of our KP. I mean, we have our top laner there sitting at a 37% kill participation up there. Although he does also average quite very few deaths, and our KDAs are fairly average across the board, ranging from about a 2.2 to almost a 4. But again, they're my team, and we'll play against Imagine Clouds next, so who knows what'll happen. So, moving down to Team Harmony, what's the next one? Anyway, Team Harmony. So Team Harmony has gone 2-2. They lost both their games to Elf Army Gaming, but then came back strong against Zero Logic Gaming in the next week. Their averaging KDAs are basically around 2, with Beamer being the only one that's up at 3. He seems to be the one that pushes the team a little bit more. He's got that higher KDA, that higher KP, along with the support there. The support, Cat with a Bow Tie, 81% kill participation. Just a phenomenal kill participation, especially from some support in the bottom lane. Like, just being able to get around the map, help out the team from those 4 games that's a very good KP to have. I definitely think that we're going to see good things from their support in the coming days as well. Similar to Next Esports, a little bit of the lower KP on the side of the top laner, 40%. But as long as they play around that, like that cat with a bow tie is really calling the shots, making the plays. I think they have a very strong team coming into that. Going down to Elf Army Gaming. These guys have only had one set of games so far. They played against Team Harmony, which is the last team we talked about, and they were the ones that went 2-0 against them. Now, looking at the stats, this is all just from one game or 2 games, the 1 week matches. Phenomenal stats. Like, granted, it's only the 2 games, so we don't know how things are going to turn out with Elf Army coming out of this from week 1 into week 3. But just looking at the KDAs from that game, those 2 games alone, you got a 20 KDA coming in from Kill the Kiwi top lane. You've got a 10.5 coming in from, I don't know how to pronounce that mid laner's name. And then Tiger Fist coming in with a 40 KDA, only dying once in those 2 games. Phenomenal KDAs. And I'm actually really interested to see how they do against Kamikaze Penguins on Monday, actually, since that's the one I'm casting. I remember that one. I'm actually really excited to see what they do, what champions they like to play, what kind of play style got them to play against Team Harmony with such ferocity. Moving down to Imagine Clouds, these guys have basically gone 1-1 every single one of the matches they've played, both against Kamikaze Penguins and Pandemic Poppies. They've lost a game, won a game, so they seem, I don't want to say like wishy-washy, but they seem like a very solid team. They can take wins off of teams in the upper ends of the bracket. They can compete with them very, very well. It doesn't matter who they're against, they have the potential to win. They have extremely high CS coming in from Tatsuya, their AD carry, at an 8.74. That amount of CS is getting him a lot of gold, and it's letting him get very strong in these games, I believe. They also have a very consistent kill participation coming from across the board. They don't focus on any one lane in particular coming out of those 4 games. They play around the team. They play around whoever is strong, and they try to help them and keep in the game that way. And I think that's a fantastic way to play. These guys are really good, and I'm excited to see how they continue playing during the season. All right, coming in next, we have the Pandemic Poppies. These is an interesting team, actually. So they have very high KP coming from the jungler, as well as the AD carry and support. The mid laner, not as high. He seems to be cusping at that 50% right there. And again, with most of the teams that I've been seeing, the top laners are very much so a huge island. I don't think I've seen a top laner yet with above a 45% KP, with the exception of like Imagine Cloud and Elf Army. The first 2 teams definitely had low KP top laners. So these guys definitely play around the AD carry bot lane. Even the mid laner is probably roaming down there, because even with the mid laner having a 54% KP, he's sitting there on only like 18 kills. Everything else is an assist. He's definitely helping his team and prioritizing them over his own goal, which is fantastic if you've got a really good player that you guys want to get ahead. And so if like these guys, I definitely think the AD carry is the guy to look out for when going into this. The jungler also having an insane amount of assists coming at it as well might also be a huge contribution to what has been going on with this team. And even when my team played against them last week, they were a phenomenal team. They were very coordinated, fantastic macro. These guys are one team that I definitely think you should look out for coming into the next few weeks when they start playing against the other teams as well. All right. Next up, we're coming into Kamikaze Penguins. So they have only really played. They had their bye week either last week or the week before. I can't remember. I think they had it week 1. So they didn't have that first game. So they played against Imagine Cloud, and that's all they've done so far. They're coming into Elf Army Gaming coming on Monday, which is another game I'm actually casting. I know most of these players. I know actually pretty much all of these players now I think about it. When I was playing with my team last season, we had Zyaniel was actually our AD carry. He's moved over to Kamikaze Penguins. Mansterferg, I met through him, and he's also one of the mods for the server, so he's pretty well known. Always gonna game, I know from Zioniel as well. Cheese Blaze was very notorious last league as being the Fiora Urgot main of the league. And on that note, Urgot is just the most picked or banned champion I have seen in this league. It is insane how many of these top laners that I've seen so far that have either picked that play Urgot to the point of where like a lot of teams will just ban it even if their top laner plays it. Like, yeah, Cheese Blaze plays Fiora Urgot. For next Esports, Requiem, he plays Urgot. I know our jungler sometimes likes to play Urgot as well. I'm pretty sure Pandemic Poppies, if I'm remembering correctly, they also liked favored the Urgot player as well. And so just a huge champion that I never expected to see Urgot be played with such volition in a competitive environment like this. And then Asav as the support down there, he seems to be kind of pulling back from the one game they've played. Fairly low kill participation, especially coming in from a support. But again, I don't think any team in this division is inherently weak or inherently bad. I believe any of these teams can beat any of the other teams, and it's a very competitive division coming into week 3. All right, now going into the last team, we have Zero Logic Gaming. This team is currently 0-4, but from like experience from playing against them and casting one of their games, I believe, and just seeing what they've done, they're a strong team. They're just on that cusp of like breaking. They can just pop off and go. They're so close, and I think just if they get that little bit of push, this team could potentially rival everybody in the league very easily, just by what they've been doing. They've got insane kill participations down the bot side of the map here. This is probably the another one of the teams that's playing on that bot half of the map. Seems like most teams are staying away from that top lane, just going all the way down to the bot side, kind of leaving that top lane on its island, as you can see with the 34% KP coming from the top laner, letting him split it out in these games. Dragon does seem to be the most contested objective since everybody's down there on this bot side of the map, getting the kills, taking the fights. We got really good CS numbers coming in from the ADC and mid here. I mean, we got a 7.24 for the ADC, and that's a really good. It's one of the higher CS numbers per minute that I've seen in this division. It's fantastic. He's a really good AD carry player, and I think that if they play more around him, they have very high potential for success. And Go Flames, the mid laner, is not too far behind on that CS per minute. At a 6.55, having a 2.8 KDA, he's another solid player for their team. If they get these guys, if they focus on these guys, get these guys ahead, they definitely have a huge potential to overtake enemy players. And that's all I've got to say about the Freljord division coming into week 3. So I'm going to move it back to Scattercat.
All right. Well, everybody, there we go. We went down every single division in the league from the first 2 weeks of play being right at the start of our 3rd week of play here. A lot of things to look forward to, a lot of questions up in the air yet for a lot of these teams. Nothing has been decided yet for playoff pictures, although there are obviously some front runners, of course. So yeah, look forward here on the channel for some more matchups coming to you in the next few days here. Speaking of that, I'm actually going to bring up the calendar to let you know what the next day of casting is. We do have 2 games tomorrow. Don't know if they're going to be casted or not, but we also have 3 games scheduled on Saturday, and we are almost certainly going to get at least one of those up on the stream here for all of you to watch. So be patient, everybody. Look forward to the next few games coming up. Look forward to next week where we do have some more VODs being casted on Tuesday. Tuesday seems to be the day for VODs, I guess, just like this week was. We'll see if that trend continues as the season progresses. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. If you would like to see us do more than just talking about the divisions on UnCEALed, for instance, if you would like to see us do patch rundowns, or if you would like to see us branch out into things beyond our little league here, maybe talk about the LCS a little more or the LEC or something, let us know. If you want to see us do something on this show, give us that feedback, because I really want this show to be for all of you, the viewers, and be something that you are excited to tune into every single week. So until next week, everybody, I hope you all have a great day. Good luck on the Rift. Good luck in your matches, and we'll see you next time.